One touch from Finn Allen's powerful hands had Chantel forgetting 3 generations of family hatred. Stranded on their private island paradise, the billionaire's forbidden caress taught her that survival meant surrendering to the heat that had simmered between them since that first stormy night. Hi, my beautiful family, my very loyal and most precious family in the world. I am James Peters, the luckiest person in the world whenever I read a story for you. It's not just storytelling, it's sharing love, emotions, and deep connections with the most incredible family ever, you. Before we begin, let's start with a beautiful Thursday prayer for my family. May this day be filled with light, love, and endless blessings. May every step you take be guided by grace, and may your heart be filled with peace. No matter what challenges come our way, we stand strong together. My beautiful family, may you always find joy, may you always find love, and may you always know that you are never alone. We are one, and together we shine brighter. Amen. Now, my beautiful family, I want to say something from my heart. I am really sorry that sometimes I ask you to like and share the videos. It's not because we doubt our work, we give 100% in everything we do. But due to multiple channels using our content and YouTube's changing policies, our reach is going down. And I don't want to lose you. That's why I ask you to like each video, share it, and leave a comment. It's not just about numbers, it's about keeping our family together. We have built something real, something strong, something unbreakable, and I never want to lose that. So, my beautiful family, I need your attendance. Are you here with me? Drop a comment and let me know. Are you present? Now, let's start with love. Because this family, unstoppable. Chapter 1, Storm of Fate. The champagne flowed like liquid gold aboard the Dynasty, the Everett family's 300-foot super yacht gliding through Tahitian waters. Chantel Everett stood at the deck railing, her emerald gown catching the dying sunlight as she escaped the suffocating opulence of her father's annual charity gala. At 32, she had become one of the nation's most celebrated neurosurgeons. Yet here, surrounded by her family's elite circle, her medical achievements felt secondary to her status as the Everett media heiress. Not enjoying the party, Dr. Everett. The voice carried a distinctive New Zealand accent that immediately identified its owner. Chantel turned to find herself face to face with Finn Allen, his 6'3" frame commanding attention even in casual linen. His presence on her family's yacht surprised her. The tech genius had revolutionized sustainable energy with his innovations, becoming the world's youngest self-made billionaire at 34. His piercing blue eyes contrasted sharply with sun-bronzed skin, and the tabloid's most eligible bachelor title suddenly seemed woefully inadequate. Mr. Allen, I wasn't aware environmental activists attended fossil fuel-funded galas, she replied, one perfectly arched eyebrow raised in challenge. His laughter was unexpectedly warm. Sometimes change happens from within the system, Doctor. Everett, your pioneering work in pediatric neural regeneration suggests you understand that concept quite well. Surprise flickered across her face. Most people saw only her family name, not her medical research. You've done your homework. Your latest paper on synaptic regeneration techniques was brilliant. I've been following your work for years. Their conversation flowed effortlessly from medical innovations to environmental ethics, intellectual equals finding unexpected common ground. When lightning cracked across the distant sky, neither noticed the approaching storm, too engrossed in debate about the ethical implications of neural interface technology. Chantel, her father's voice cut between them like ice. Raymond Everett, media mogul and patriarch, approached with thunderous expression, champagne flute clutched too tightly in his manicured hand. Your mother is looking for you. The chill in his tone as he pointedly ignored Finn wasn't lost on Chantel. She excused herself with practiced grace, but not before Finn whispered, "I'd like to continue our conversation." "Absolutely not," Raymond hissed once they were out of earshot, steering her forcefully toward the yacht's main salon. "Do you have any idea who that is? One of the most innovative minds in sustainable technology?" Chantel challenged, pulling her arm free. "He's Thomas Allen's grandson." The statement hung between them, loaded with 3 generations of bitterness. Chantel's medical training had taught her to question everything, but her father's decades-old feud with the Allen family remained frustratingly opaque. Something about stolen research, a ruined career, and her grandmother Elizabeth's subsequent suicide, the family tragedy that predated her birth but continued to shadow the Everett legacy. "That feud is ancient history, Dad. Thomas Allen died years ago." "The debt didn't die with him." Raymond's eyes hardened. "The Allens destroyed our family once. They don't get a second chance." What Raymond wouldn't reveal was the real reason he'd invited Finn Allen to this event. Everett Media had quietly been acquiring shares in Allen Innovations through shell companies. Tonight's charity gala was cover for the board meeting that would finalize their hostile takeover strategy. As Chantel fulfilled her social obligations inside, the storm that had been gathering on the horizon accelerated with tropical ferocity. The captain's voice soon crackled over the intercom, instructing guests to move to the yacht's center as they changed course to outrun the unexpected tempest. The Dynasty's engines roared against mounting waves, but nature proved more powerful than engineering. A massive swell caught the vessel broadside, sending crystal and silver crashing to the floor. Chantel lost her footing as the yacht lurched violently, sliding across the polished floor toward the windows. Strong hands caught her before impact. Finn had appeared from nowhere, steadying her against his chest. "Are you all right?" His voice remained calm amid the chaos. Before she could answer, emergency lighting bathed everything in eerie red as the captain's voice returned with unmistakable urgency. "All passengers to muster stations immediately. This is not a drill." Chantel's medical training kicked in as she helped direct panicked guests toward life jackets and emergency exits. The Dynasty listed dangerously as waves hammered its hull. Through driving rain on the evacuation deck, she caught sight of her parents being helped into a lifeboat. "Chantel!" Her mother's scream barely carried over the howling wind. She moved toward them, but a monstrous wave crashed over the starboard side, sweeping across the deck with unstoppable force. Chantel felt her feet leave the ground as freezing water enveloped her, carrying her toward the churning Pacific. Her last conscious thought was of the irony. The brilliant neurosurgeon unable to save her own brain from oxygen deprivation. Then strong arms encircled her waist, pulling her against a solid form as they were both propelled into the blackness of the stormy sea. Finn's voice somehow reached her through the watery chaos. "Hold on to me. Don't let go." They surfaced together, gasping for breath amid towering waves. The yacht's lights were already distant, emergency flares painting the violent storm clouds in bursts of desperate red. Finn's grip remained unbreakable as he fought to keep them both above water. "There," he pointed toward a floating piece of debris, part of the yacht's tender torn free by the storm. With superhuman effort, he propelled them toward it, hoisting Chantel onto the makeshift raft before pulling himself alongside her. Lightning illuminated the devastation around them, the Dynasty now listing severely, distant lifeboats battling the current. As consciousness began to fade, Chantel felt Finn bind them together with a length of rope, securing them to the debris. "Stay with me," he commanded, his face inches from hers as rain pelted their skin. "I'm not losing you." As darkness claimed her, Chantel wondered why this stranger fought so desperately for her life when their families had spent decades trying to destroy each other. Her last sensation was the protective circle of his arms and the strange certainty that if she had to face death, she wasn't facing it alone. The storm raged through the night, carrying them far from shipping lanes and search patterns, depositing them on the shores of an island that appeared on no luxury cruise itineraries, an untouched paradise that would become both their salvation and the crucible in which generations of hatred would finally be tested against something far more powerful, the undeniable connection between two souls thrown together by fate's cruelest and kindest storm. Chapter 2. Castaway's consciousness returned to Chantel in painful increments. First the coarse sand against her cheek, then the relentless sun beating down on her salt-crusted skin. Her emerald gown clung to her body in tattered ruins, once pristine silk, now shredded beyond recognition. She tried to move and immediately regretted it, as pain lanced through her ribs. "Easy," said a voice nearby. "You might have a couple of fractured ribs." Chantel squinted against the sunlight to find Finn Allen kneeling beside a small fire, his formal attire reduced to torn trousers. His torso, now bare, revealed an impressive physique marked by fresh cuts and bruises, testament to their violent journey through the storm. "Where are we?" Her medical training automatically cataloged her symptoms: dehydration, possible concussion, contusions along her left side. "Somewhere in the Leeward Islands, I think, far from the main shipping channels." He offered a makeshift coconut shell filled with fresh water. "Small sips. You've been unconscious for almost a day." The reality of their situation crashed over her with more force than the wave that had swept her overboard. The yacht? My parents? No sign of the dynasty or any other survivors. His voice remained calm, controlled. "But that doesn't mean they didn't make it. The lifeboats were deploying when we went overboard." Chantel attempted to stand but swayed dangerously. Finn was at her side instantly, strong hands steadying her with surprising gentleness. "You saved my life," she acknowledged, meeting his gaze directly. Something unreadable flickered across his face. "Let's focus on keeping us both alive now." Over the next days, they established a rhythm of survival. Finn's unexpected practical knowledge surprised her. He built a shelter from palm fronds and salvaged debris, fashioned fishing spears from branches, and located a freshwater spring inland. Chantel's medical expertise proved equally valuable as she treated their injuries with limited resources, identifying edible plants and creating natural remedies from the island's flora. "Where does a tech billionaire learn survival skills?" she asked on their third evening as they ate fish roasted over open flames. Finn's smile held a hint of sadness. "Before the Allens adopted me, I spent 2 years in the New Zealand foster system. My last foster father was a wilderness guide, taught me more in 6 months than most people learn in a lifetime." "You're adopted?" This revelation contradicted everything she thought she knew about the Allen dynasty. "My birth parents died in a car accident when I was 10. No other family stepped forward." He poked at the fire, sending sparks spiraling into the darkening sky. "The Allens couldn't have biological children. They were looking for an heir. I was looking for a home. It worked out." Chantel processed this information against her father's portrayal of the Allen family as calculated opportunists. "That must have been difficult." "It taught me that family isn't about blood," he said simply. "It's about choice." As days stretched into a week, they explored their island prison, a perfect horseshoe bay with white sand beaches giving way to lush jungle and a central rocky outcrop that Finn climbed daily to scan the horizon for ships. Their enforced proximity bred familiarity, then genuine connection. On their 9th evening, a sudden tropical downpour drove them into their shelter. The close quarters eliminated the careful distance they'd maintained since washing ashore. Sitting cross-legged on palm mats, they found conversation turning to the elephant that had followed them onto the island, their family's bitter history. My father only mentioned that your grandfather stole research from my grandmother, Chantel admitted. Something that destroyed her career and led to her suicide. Lightning illuminated Finn's face, his expression troubled. That's the Everett version. The Allen version claims your grandmother falsely accused my grandfather of theft to cover her own corporate espionage. And you believe that? I believe history is written by those with the loudest voices and deepest pockets. His gaze held hers steadily. Both our families have plenty of both. Chantel considered this perspective, so different from the absolute certainty her father had always projected. 3 generations of hatred based on competing narratives neither of us can verify. Seems rather pointless now, doesn't it? Finn gestured to their primitive surroundings. Out here, the Everett-Allen feud means nothing. You're a doctor, I'm an engineer. Together, we're just trying to survive. The rain intensified, drumming against their shelter as thunder shook the air around them. When Chantel shivered, Finn hesitated before moving closer, sharing his body heat. The simple contact, shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, sent an unexpected current through her that had nothing to do with temperature regulation. "Tell me about your work," he suggested, clearly sensing her discomfort. "The neural regeneration research. No corporate secrets, just the science." Grateful for the neutral territory, Chantel explained her pioneering approach to helping children with traumatic brain injuries. Finn listened with genuine interest, asking intelligent questions that reflected his own expertise in neural interface technology. Their professional passions overlapped in fascinating ways neither had anticipated. We could actually combine our approaches, Chantel realized, excitement momentarily overshadowing their predicament. Your interface technology could guide my regenerative techniques, increasing precision and efficacy by orders of magnitude. The ultimate Everett-Allen collaboration, Finn mused with a wry smile. Our families would disown us. The absurdity of their situation struck them simultaneously, laughter bubbling up unexpectedly. Chantel couldn't remember the last time she'd laughed so freely, without the weight of the Everett legacy pressing down on her shoulders. As their laughter subsided, Chantel found herself studying Finn's face in the firelight. The intelligence in his eyes, the strength in his jaw, the unexpected kindness in his expression. For the first time, she saw him not as an Allen, not as a rival, but simply as a man, one who had saved her life and now shared her fate. "Why did you dive in after me?" she asked suddenly. "You could have died." His gaze met hers, utterly sincere. "I saw someone in danger. Nothing else mattered in that moment." The simplicity of his answer humbled her. In Finn's world, human life transcended family feuds and corporate rivalries, a perspective her prestigious medical career had taught her, but that somehow seemed more profound, coming from this man her family had taught her to hate. That night, as rain continued its rhythmic assault on their shelter, Chantel fell asleep, wondering what else her father might be wrong about when it came to Finn Allen. Days turned into a second week. They established a lookout point atop the island's highest ridge, taking turns watching for passing ships or planes. They crafted rudimentary tools, improved their shelter, and mapped the island's resources. Their conversations deepened, ranging from childhood memories to professional aspirations to philosophical debates under star-filled skies. Chantel found herself drawn to Finn's brilliant mind and quiet strength, while he admitted admiration for her compassionate intelligence and resilience. Neither acknowledged the growing tension between them, an attraction as powerful as it was inconvenient, building with each passing day on their private paradise. On their 15th morning, Chantel woke to find Finn already gone from their camp. Following his footprints along the beach, she discovered him standing waist-deep in crystalline water, spear poised above the surface with absolute focus. The morning sun gilded his skin, highlighting the increased definition of muscles honed by daily survival tasks. As if sensing her presence, he turned, a triumphant smile breaking across his face as he held up a large fish. The simple joy of his expression sent an unexpected ache through her chest, a recognition that when rescue eventually came, this unplanned intimacy would end. They would return to their separate worlds, to families that would never accept what was developing between them. "Breakfast," he called, wading toward shore. "Finn," she began, not entirely sure what she intended to say. "When we get back." He stopped before her, water streaming down his chest, eyes suddenly serious. "Let's not think about back yet. Here, now. This is what's real." His free hand reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear with gentle fingers. The casual intimacy of the gesture stole her breath. For a suspended moment, they stood at the precipice of something neither had planned for, something that would complicate their already complex lives immeasurably. A distant mechanical whir broke the spell. Their heads turned simultaneously toward the horizon, where a small dot had appeared in the cloudless sky. "A helicopter," Finn breathed, dropping the fish and grabbing her hand. "Come on." They raced toward their pre-prepared signal fire, hope and a strange reluctance battling in Chantel's heart as they prepared to leave the island that had become their private world. A world where Everetts and Allens could exist without history's heavy chains, where they were simply a man and woman discovering something extraordinary in the most unexpected place. Chapter 3. Revelation in Paradise. The helicopter circled twice before descending toward their signal fire, kicking up a maelstrom of sand and salt water. Chantel shielded her eyes, emotions conflicted as rescue approached. 3 weeks on this island had changed something fundamental between them, something neither was prepared to relinquish. "Finn," she shouted over the rotor noise, gripping his arm, "before we leave." He pulled her close, his lips nearly touching her ear. "Whatever happens, this was real. Remember that." The aircraft touched down, disgorging men in search and rescue uniforms who approached with expressions of professional amazement. "Doctor, Everett, Mr. Allen, this is extraordinary. You've been declared presumed dead for over 2 weeks." Medical personnel swarmed them, checking vitals and injuries with brisk efficiency. Chantel found herself separated from Finn, loaded onto the helicopter with a thermal blanket wrapped around her shoulders and an IV inserted into her arm. Through the window, she watched him speaking with the search coordinator, gesturing toward their shelter and supplies before climbing aboard. He took the seat opposite her, their eyes meeting across the cramped cabin. A silent understanding passed between them. Their island existence had ended, reality rushing back with dizzying speed. The Dynasty capsized during the storm, a crewman informed them, misreading their silence as concern. But all other passengers and crew were rescued. Your families have been frantic. Relief washed through Chantel at confirmation of her parents' survival. Yet beneath that genuine emotion lurked something more complicated. The knowledge that rescue meant returning to the Everett-Allen feud and all its toxic expectations. The flight to Papeete, Tahiti's capital, passed in a blur of medical assessments and debriefing questions. Upon landing, they were whisked to separate examination rooms at the island's premier hospital. Chantel submitted to blood draws and scans, answering doctors' questions mechanically, while her mind remained on the man who had saved her life multiple times over. When the door to her room burst open, her mother, Victoria's familiar perfume enveloped her before her arms did. "My baby," she sobbed, crushing Chantel against her immaculately dressed form. "We thought we'd lost you forever." Her father followed, eyes suspiciously bright as he embraced her with uncharacteristic emotion. "When the Dynasty went down and you weren't in any of the lifeboats." Raymond's voice faltered, the media mogul momentarily wordless. The family reunion was interrupted by the arrival of James Everett, Chantel's younger brother and the family's legal advisor. His expression shifted rapidly from relief to calculation as he assessed her condition. "Thank God you're all right," he said, kissing her cheek. "The board has been in chaos. Half of them wanted to declare you legally dead already to sort out the succession planning." "Always the sentimentalist, James," Chantel replied dryly. Raymond straightened his bespoke suit jacket, composure returning. "What happened out there, Alexandra?" "The rescue team said you were with the Allen boy." The diminutive reference to the man who had kept her alive for 3 weeks sparked unexpected irritation. "His name is Finn, and yes, he saved my life when I was swept overboard. He built our shelter, found water, kept us alive until rescue came." Her father's expression darkened. "I'm grateful he helped you survive, but don't mistake necessity for friendship. The Allens cannot be trusted." Before Chantel could respond, the door opened again to admit Dr. Lallemand, the hospital's chief physician. "Ms. Everett is remarkably healthy considering her ordeal," he announced. "Some dehydration, minor abrasions, and mild malnutrition, but nothing requiring extended hospitalization." "Then we'll arrange immediate transport back to New York," Raymond declared. "Our physician can oversee her recovery." "Actually," Chantel interjected, finding her voice, "I'd like to rest here overnight before traveling." Her father began to protest, but Victoria placed a restraining hand on his arm. "Of course, darling. We'll stay at the Royal Tahitian. James has already booked the presidential suite." When they finally departed, promising to return in the morning, Chantel exhaled fully for the first time since the helicopter landed. The suffocating weight of family expectations had returned with breathtaking speed. She changed from her hospital gown into clothes her mother had brought, designer pieces that felt alien after weeks in island simplicity. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called, expecting a nurse. Instead, Finn stood in the doorway, dressed in clothes that weren't his, expensive but ill-fitting. His hair had been trimmed, his island beard shaved clean, revealing the sharp jawline she remembered from that first night aboard the yacht. Something essential remained unchanged, however, the direct intensity of his gaze as it found hers. "Your security detail is impressive," he said, closing the door behind him. "I had to convince 3 different people I wasn't planning to kidnap you." "My father's doing," she sighed. "The Everett paranoia machine is fully operational again." He moved closer, stopping at a careful distance. "How are you?" "Physically fine. Mentally ... She gestured vaguely. "It's disorienting. 3 weeks as castaways, now back to being billionaire heirs." His smile held no humor. Quite the adjustment. The artificial hospital lighting highlighted the lingering tan on his face, the small scar on his temple from their first difficult night on the island. Chantel fought the unexpected urge to trace it with her fingertips. "They're flying me to Auckland tomorrow," he continued. "The Allen Innovations Board has called an emergency meeting. My family's taking me back to New York." The 6,000 miles between their destinations struck her as symbolic. Finn ran a hand through his shortened hair, frustration evident. "This isn't how I wanted this to end." "Is it ending?" The question escaped before she could reconsider. He took a step closer, caution abandoned. "Not if you don't want it to." The door opened without warning, admitting James with a stack of documents. He froze upon seeing Finn, his expression transitioning from surprise to cool assessment. "Mr. Allen," he acknowledged stiffly, "I wasn't aware you were visiting my sister." "Just checking on my fellow castaway," Finn replied, matching James's formal tone. James placed the documents on Chantel's bed. "Press releases requiring your approval. Father thought you might want input on the official narrative." His emphasis on official spoke volumes. "I'll leave you to your family business," Finn said, moving toward the door. At the threshold, he paused, looking back at Chantel. The island we were on, it's called Motu Tapu. Thought you might want to know." After he departed, James raised an eyebrow. "Becoming friendly with the enemy, sister. He saved my life, James. Multiple times. And the Allens destroyed our grandmothers." James tapped the press release. "Some debts can't be repaid with a few weeks of island survival skills." Later that night, unable to sleep in her too-soft hospital bed, Chantel researched Motu Tapu on her newly replaced phone. What she discovered sent a chill down her spine. In ancient Polynesian tradition, the island was considered sacred ground where forbidden lovers could find sanctuary when their families opposed their union. Those who reached its shores were under the protection of the gods, beyond the reach of even the most powerful tribal leaders. The significance wasn't lost on her. Their sanctuary had been a place literally named for defying family opposition to love. When morning arrived, she found a small package beside her bed, delivered during shift change to bypass her family's surveillance. Inside was a perfectly formed pearl set in a simple platinum band, accompanied by a note in Finn's distinctive handwriting. "Some treasures are worth defying oceans for. Auckland isn't so far from New York." She slipped the ring onto her right hand just as her family arrived to escort her home. Raymond's disapproving glance at the pearl spoke volumes, but Chantel met his gaze steadily, something of the island's strength remaining in her spine. As their private jet lifted from Tahitian soil, Chantel watched the perfect blue lagoons recede beneath clouds, the pearl cool against her skin. 3 weeks ago, she had known exactly who she was: Dr. Alexandra Chantel Everett, heiress and neurosurgeon, defined by family legacy and professional achievement. Now, certainty had washed away like footprints on their island beach, leaving only questions in its wake. Questions about family loyalty versus personal truth, about inherited hatred versus experienced connection, about the man who had saved more than just her life on an island called Forbidden Sanctuary. Chapter 4. Worlds Collide. The media frenzy erupted before Chantel's plane touched down in New York. "Billionaire heirs island romance," screamed tabloid headlines, alongside grainy photos of their rescue. Cable news dissected their ordeal with ghoulish enthusiasm, speculating endlessly about what had transpired during their 3 weeks of isolation. "This is a nightmare," James muttered, scrolling through his tablet as their limousine crawled through Manhattan traffic. "Our stock has dropped 8 points since these stories broke." "People almost died, James," Chantel snapped. "The dynasty is at the bottom of the Pacific. Perhaps financial implications could wait?" Raymond lowered his phone, his expression grave. "The financial implications are directly tied to these insinuations about you and the Allen boy." "His name is Finn," Chantel corrected automatically. "And what insinuations are so damaging?" James turned his tablet to display a particularly lurid headline: "Forbidden Love. Shipwrecked heirs defy family feud." "This narrative undermines decades of Everett media positioning," Raymond explained with strained patience. "Our litigation against Allen Innovations becomes considerably more complicated if the public believes our companies might merge through other means." The implication hung heavily in the air. Chantel twisted the pearl ring on her finger, drawing her father's narrowed gaze. "A gift?" he asked with dangerous calm. "A reminder," she replied simply. The Everett penthouse welcomed her with sterile luxury that felt foreign after weeks of living in harmony with nature. Her mother had arranged a small welcome home gathering with family friends and board members, all keen to hear a sanitized version of her ordeal. Chantel performed admirably, downplaying both the dangers they'd faced and Finn's crucial role in their survival. Late that evening, after the guests had departed, she retreated to her private suite, overwhelmed by the contrast between island simplicity and Manhattan excess. Her phone, silent during the social obligation, now displayed multiple missed calls from Auckland. Heart racing, she closed her bedroom door before returning Finn's call. "Chantel." His voice, even through digital compression, transported her instantly back to firelit conversations beneath tropical stars. "I've been paraded before the Everett board like some returning war hero," she said, sinking onto her bed. "You?" "Similar circus here. The Allen Innovation shareholders are rather concerned about their investment being linked romantically to Everett Media." The corporate lens through which their connection was being viewed struck her as both absurd and infuriating. 3 weeks ago, we were fighting for survival. Now we're back to being corporate assets. "It doesn't have to be this way." Determination colored his tone. "I'm coming to New York next week for the Global Tech Summit. Have dinner with me." The request was simple yet revolutionary, an intentional step from private connection to public acknowledgement. My father would implode. "Is that a no?" Chantel fingered the pearl ring, remembering their island, Motu Tapu, sanctuary for forbidden love. "It's a where and when." The week passed in a whirlwind of medical checkups, board meetings, and careful reintegration into her surgical practice. Beneath the professional veneer, anticipation built with each passing day. The pearl ring remained on her finger, prompting curious glances from colleagues and pointed questions from family. On Friday evening, dressed in a simple black sheath rather than the ostentatious designer pieces her mother preferred, Chantel slipped past the doorman through a service entrance, avoiding the paparazzi who had maintained vigilance outside the Everett building since her return. The restaurant Finn had chosen was deliberately low profile, a Michelin-starred hole in the wall in the village where privacy outweighed prestige. When she entered the warmly lit space, he rose from a corner table, the sight of him in perfectly tailored charcoal sending an unexpected flutter through her chest. "You look beautiful," he said simply, taking her hands in his. For a suspended moment, the world beyond their table ceased to exist. Then reality reasserted itself as heads turned throughout the restaurant, recognition dawning on patrons' faces. "So much for our low-profile reunion," Chantel murmured as they sat. "Let them look," Finn replied, his gaze never leaving hers. "I'm tired of pretending the island never happened." They ordered wine and shared plates, conversation flowing as easily as it had beside their campfire. Finn spoke of his company's latest neural interface breakthrough, while Chantel described returning to the operating room after her ordeal. Beneath the professional updates ran a deeper current, the unspoken acknowledgement that something profound had changed between them, something neither was willing to relinquish. "Allen Innovations is opening a research facility in Manhattan," Finn revealed as they lingered over dessert. "I'll be relocating here for at least 6 months." The implication was clear. Chantel met his gaze steadily. "My father has informants everywhere. The moment he confirms you're staying in New York because of me, let me worry about Raymond Everett." His hand covered hers on the table, a public gesture that would be photographed and dissected within hours. "The question is, are you willing to face whatever comes next?" Before she could answer, her phone vibrated with her father's distinctive pattern. Simultaneously, a text appeared on screen from James. "Emergency board meeting called. Your absence noted. Get home now." "They know," she said, showing Finn the message. His expression remained calm. "And?" The simplicity of his question crystallized everything. On their island, stripped of wealth and status, they had discovered something authentic. Now, surrounded by the trappings of their privileged lives, they faced a choice: retreat to family expectations or fight for what they'd found together. "Let's give them something to really talk about," Chantel decided, leaning across the table to kiss him. The kiss was brief but definitive, witnessed by dozens of smartphone cameras. When they separated, Finn's eyes held a mixture of surprise and admiration. That should make tomorrow's headlines. "I'm done living my life according to Everett Media's preferred narrative," she declared, suddenly lighter than she'd felt since rescue. They left the restaurant hand in hand, ignoring the flash of cameras. Outside, Finn's driver waited with a sleek Tesla. "I'll take you home," he offered. "Not yet," Chantel decided. "Show me your New York." They spent hours walking the High Line, anonymous in the evening crowds, sharing stories they hadn't had time for on the island. Finn described growing up as the adopted heir to the Allen fortune, never quite fitting the dynasty's expectations. Chantel admitted her childhood dream of becoming a doctor had initially horrified her media mogul father, who had envisioned her as the face of Everett's digital expansion. "We're both disappointments to our dynasties," Finn observed as they overlooked the Hudson River. "Perhaps that's why we understand each other." When they finally arrived at the Everett building, the lights in the penthouse blazed despite the late hour. Chantel knew her family waited above, prepared for confrontation. "I should face them alone," she said, though reluctance colored her voice. Finn brushed a strand of hair from her face, his touch achingly familiar. "Call me after, no matter what happens or what time." "They can't stop this," she assured him, surprising herself with her certainty. His smile held equal confidence. "No, they can't." The elevator ride to the penthouse felt like ascending to battle. When the doors opened, she found her father, mother, and James arranged like tribunal judges in the living room, multiple tablets displaying the viral photos of her kiss with Finn. "Have you completely lost your mind?" Raymond demanded without preamble. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Chantel removed her coat calmly. "Had dinner with a friend, I believe." "A friend?" James sputtered. "That man's family has been trying to destroy ours for generations." "That man saved my life multiple times," she countered. "What exactly did his family do that justifies this eternal vendetta?" A heavy silence followed her question. Victoria glanced nervously at Raymond, whose complexion had darkened dangerously. "Thomas Allen seduced your grandmother, stole her research, claimed it as his own, and then abandoned her," Raymond finally stated. "When she threatened to expose him, he used his influence to destroy her credibility. Elizabeth killed herself because of him." The familiar narrative struck Chantel differently now, full of emotional language but suspiciously short on verifiable facts. "That tragedy happened over 40 years ago," she observed. "What does it have to do with Finn and me now?" "Blood tells," Raymond insisted. "The Allens built their fortune on theft from our family. Now his grandson pursues you weeks after our company begins acquiring Allen Innovations shares. The pattern is painfully obvious." The revelation struck Chantel like physical blow. "You've been planning a hostile takeover of his company?" "A strategic acquisition," James corrected smoothly. "One now complicated by your public display of affection." Understanding dawned with sickening clarity. The feud wasn't merely historical, it was actively being perpetuated by her own family. Her father had invited Finn aboard the dynasty, not as a gesture of reconciliation, but as part of corporate reconnaissance. "This ends now," Raymond declared, sliding a document across the coffee table. "You will sign this press release clarifying that Mr. Allen was merely a survival companion, nothing more. You will return to your medical practice and cease all contact with him." Chantel picked up the statement, scanning its carefully crafted language that diminished both her agency and Finn's integrity. Without comment, she tore it neatly in half. "I am not a corporate asset, father. I'm your daughter. And Finn Allen is not his grandfather, just as I am not my grandmother." Raymond's expression hardened. "If you pursue this relationship, there will be consequences. Professional consequences." The threat hung in the air between them. As a neurosurgeon, Chantel's career depended on hospital affiliations and research funding, areas where the Everett influence reached deep. Are you threatening my medical career because I had dinner with someone you disapprove of? The question laid bare the toxic dynamics that had always lurked beneath their family's polished facade. I'm protecting our family legacy, Raymond corrected. Something you seem determined to dismantle for a vacation romance. Chantel fingered the pearl ring, remembering the strength she'd discovered on their island. It was never about romance, Father. It was about seeing someone clearly, without prejudice or agenda. Something this family could learn from. She turned to leave, pausing at the threshold. I have surgery scheduled tomorrow morning, a 6-year-old with trauma-induced seizures. After that, I'm having lunch with Finn. Your move, Father. As the elevator descended, Chantel texted Finn. They're worse than we thought. Tell you tomorrow. Worth fighting for. His response came instantly. Always was. Chapter 5. Blood Ties and Betrayal. The operating room had always been Chantel's sanctuary, a place where last names and family legacies held no relevance compared to skill and precision. As she completed a delicate neural procedure on her young patient, she felt centered for the first time since returning to New York. Beautiful work, her colleague Dr. Rivera commented as they scrubbed out. You'd never know you spent 3 weeks on a deserted island. Some skills don't fade, Chantel replied, suppressing memories of using those same steady hands to clean fish and weave palm fronds beside Finn. The board's been asking questions, Rivera continued carefully, about your friendship with Finn Allen. The board should concern themselves with patient outcomes, not my personal life. Just thought you should know, Chief of Surgery had a closed-door meeting with your father yesterday. The warning was clear. Raymond was making good on his threats, reaching into her professional sphere with disturbing speed. Chantel thanked Rivera before checking her phone, finding multiple missed calls from James and a single text from Finn. Still on for lunch? Car waiting whenever you're ready. Finn's waiting Tesla whisked her to a private dining club where membership required both extreme wealth and extreme discretion. I thought we might need privacy, Finn explained as they were escorted to a secluded table. Your family's been busy. Threatening my hospital privileges, Chantel confirmed. Yours? Elaine called this morning. The Allen Innovations Board is convening an emergency session to discuss my conflict of interest regarding Everett Media. His adoptive mother, as board chairwoman, had always been the family's strategic mastermind. My father's planning a hostile takeover of your company, Chantel revealed. That's why you were invited aboard the yacht. The storm just complicated their timeline. To her surprise, Finn nodded. I suspected as much. Allen Innovations stock has been behaving strangely for months, small but consistent acquisitions through various shell companies. You knew and came anyway? His smile held no humor. Know your enemy, as they say. I didn't expect to get shipwrecked with the enemy's daughter, however. Their conversation paused as a server delivered their meals. When they were alone again, Finn leaned forward, his expression serious. Chantel, there's something you should know. After you mentioned your grandmother, I had my people research the Elizabeth Everett case. Unease rippled through her. And? The official record doesn't match your father's version. Elizabeth and my grandfather were research partners and co-patent holders. There was no theft. My father wouldn't lie about his own mother's suicide, Chantel protested, though doubt had taken root since her confrontation with Raymond. People construct narratives that justify their actions, Finn replied carefully, especially powerful people. He produced a folder containing photocopied documents, patent applications, research papers, and correspondence between Elizabeth Everett and Thomas Allen, dated 4 decades earlier. They were collaborators, Finn explained as Chantel examined the evidence. And from these letters, possibly more than that. The correspondence painted a picture starkly different from family legend, Elizabeth and Thomas as intellectual equals whose neural interface research had been decades ahead of its time. Their letters contained unmistakable affection alongside scientific discussion. If they were partners, why did she kill herself? Why has my family blamed yours for generations? I don't have all the answers, Finn admitted, but I found something else. He slid a final document across the table, a hospital birth record dated 9 months after the last correspondence between Thomas and Elizabeth. Chantel's blood ran cold as she read the name. Raymond Thomas Everett. My grandfather disappeared from the public eye around the same time, Finn continued gently. A year later, he married my grandmother in a private ceremony in Switzerland. The implications crystallized with horrifying clarity. You're suggesting Thomas Allen was my father's biological father? That my grandmother was pregnant with his child when he abandoned her? I'm suggesting there might be more to this story than either of our families has acknowledged, Finn corrected, and that our mysterious connection might have deeper roots than coincidence. I need to confront my father with this, she decided, gathering the documents. Chantel, wait. Finn's hand covered hers. Raymond has built his identity on this narrative. Challenging it won't be simple or safe. Nothing about us has been simple or safe, she reminded him. I can't build a future on buried truths. Before Finn could respond, her phone chimed with a hospital alert. Her young patient was experiencing post-operative complications. She stood immediately, professional instincts overriding all else. Take the car, Finn offered, understanding without explanation. I'll call later. Racing back to the hospital, Chantel forced all thoughts of family secrets aside, focusing entirely on the child whose brain she had just operated on. The emergency required 4 intense hours in surgery, but she successfully stabilized the bleeding that had threatened her patient's life. Exhausted, she was documenting the procedure when the chief of surgery entered her office without knocking. The board has recommended a review of your surgical privileges, he announced without preamble. In the meantime, your scheduled procedures are being reassigned. Chantel stared in disbelief. I just saved a child's life after post-operative hemorrhage. What possible grounds? Conflict of interest, he interrupted. Your involvement with Allen Innovations creates ethical concerns regarding patient data security. Who suggested this review? My father. The chief's uncomfortable silence was answer enough. Leaving the hospital in a daze, Chantel found herself directing her driver not to the Everett penthouse but to Finn's temporary residence. The sleek downtown loft occupied the entire top floor of a converted industrial building, its panoramic windows offering views of a city now tainted by family manipulation. Finn opened the door immediately, concern evident as he took in her expression. What happened? My father happened, she replied, stepping into his space. They've suspended my surgical privileges pending review. His arms encircled her, solid and comforting. I'm so sorry, Chantel. He's using innocent patients as pawns, she said against his chest, anger overshadowing hurt. Children who need the procedure only I can perform. That night, they strategized over takeout containers and digital documents, piecing together the true history of their families. The picture that emerged was heartbreaking in its clarity. Elizabeth Everett and Thomas Allen as brilliant researchers whose personal relationship had complicated their professional partnership. Elizabeth's pregnancy and her husband Harold's discovery of the affair. Thomas's disappearance coinciding with Harold's threats to destroy both their reputations. At midnight, Chantel's phone displayed a text from Victoria. Your father knows where you are. Coming home tonight? The simple question carried layers of implication. Chantel showed the message to Finn, who understood immediately. They're forcing you to choose, he observed. Family loyalty or me? They don't get to define loyalty, Chantel replied, typing her response. No. Meeting with father tomorrow. Have documents he needs to see. Victoria's reply came immediately. Be careful, darling. Some truths are protected for reason. The cryptic warning sent a chill through Chantel. My mother knows, she realized. She's always known about Thomas and Elizabeth. Finn's expression grew troubled. If Victoria knows the truth, then this vendetta isn't just Raymond's blind spot. It's a deliberate perpetuation of a lie. A lie that's shaped 3 generations, Chantel agreed, the weight of inherited hatred suddenly suffocating. A lie that nearly kept us apart. Finn took her hand, his touch grounding her amidst Revelation's chaos. But it didn't. The simple statement cut through complexity, reminding her of what mattered most. On their island, stripped of family histories and corporate rivalries, they had found something authentic. That connection remained their truest compass. Stay tonight, Finn said softly. Not because of your father or mine, not because of hospitals or companies. Stay because you want to. In answer, Chantel closed the distance between them, her kiss conveying what words couldn't, that amid generations of deception, they had somehow found truth in each other. Chapter 6. Hearts in Defiance. Chantel prepared for the most difficult confrontation of her life. Dressed in a tailored suit that armor-plated her resolve, she reviewed the documents one final time, evidence that would shatter her father's lifelong narrative. Are you sure about this approach? Finn asked, handing her coffee. Raymond won't simply accept these documents and change 40 years of belief. I'm done with half-truths, Chantel replied. My patients are suffering because of this vendetta. It ends today. Her phone chimed with a message from James. Emergency board meeting called for noon. Your presence non-negotiable. Perfect timing, she murmured, showing Finn the message. The entire Everett leadership will be assembled. I'm coming with you, he stated firmly. This part I need to do alone, she replied, placing her hand against his cheek. This confrontation was inevitable from the moment I realized my father built his empire on destroying his biological father's legacy. The Everett Tower dominated the Manhattan skyline. Security guards watched warily as she crossed the lobby, their earpieces reporting her arrival to those waiting above. The executive elevator whisked her to the boardroom where the 12-member Everett Media Board sat with Raymond at its head, Victoria to his right, James to his left. Alexandra, Raymond acknowledged stiffly. We were beginning to wonder if you would honor family obligation. Let's dispense with the theatrics, Father, Chantel replied, taking the seat directly opposite him. I understand this meeting concerns my personal life rather than corporate strategy. Your personal life became corporate strategy the moment you aligned yourself publicly with Finn Allen, Raymond replied coldly. The Allen acquisition has been under development for 18 months. Its value is unrelated to family history. Isn't it? Chantel withdrew the documents from her briefcase. Then perhaps you can explain why Thomas Allen's name appears on my father's birth certificate. The silence that followed was absolute. Victoria closed her eyes briefly, while James stared in undisguised shock. Chantel slid the hospital record across the table. Elizabeth Everett gave birth to Raymond Thomas Everett 9 months after her last documented meeting with Thomas Allen. Correspondence between them suggests they were more than research colleagues. This proves nothing, Raymond declared, though his knuckles whitened around the paper, and has no relevance to current business. It explains why Harold Everett rewrote history, Chantel continued. Why he painted Thomas Allen as a thief rather than admit his wife's affair. It explains why this company has pursued a 40-year vendetta against the Allen family. Victoria finally spoke, her voice barely audible. "Raymond, perhaps we should discuss this privately." "There's nothing to discuss," he cut her off. "These documents are clearly fabricated, another Allen attempt to undermine our position." "They're authenticated," Chantel countered. "This isn't about corporate strategy. It's about a son destroying his biological father's legacy without even knowing it." Raymond slammed his fist against the table. "Enough! James, present the Allen acquisition parameters." "I think the board deserves to understand why we're really targeting Allen Innovations," Chantel persisted. "Why you invited Finn onto the dynasty for reconnaissance. Why you've spent decades building a media empire, partly to destroy your own father's company." "Harold Everett was my father," Raymond snarled, rising from his chair. "He raised me when Thomas Allen abandoned my mother. Blood means nothing compared to that loyalty." "Then you understand exactly why I won't abandon Finn," she replied quietly. "Because loyalty isn't dictated by DNA or family names. It's earned through actions." Raymond's expression hardened. "As of this moment, your position as heir to Everett Media is suspended. Your trust fund access is frozen. Your hospital privileges, which exist through our family's philanthropy, will remain revoked." The systematic dismantling of her life should have devastated her. Instead, Chantel felt a curious lightness. "Is that supposed to frighten me back into compliance?" she asked. "I survived 3 weeks on a deserted island with nothing but my skills and intelligence. I'm a surgeon who saved hundreds of lives. My worth isn't measured by access to Everett assets." Victoria reached for Raymond's arm. "This has gone too far. She's your daughter." "She's made her choice," Raymond replied coldly. "The Allen boy over her own family." "I'm choosing truth over comfortable lies," Chantel said, gathering her documents. "I'm choosing to end a cycle of hatred built on deception." Raymond's voice stopped her at the doorway. "If you walk out now, Alexandra, there's no coming back. You will no longer be an Everett in any way that matters." Chantel turned, meeting her father's gaze directly. "I've always been more than just an Everett, father. That's what truly terrifies you." Outside, Finn waited in his car, ignoring photographers as he opened the door for her. "That bad?" he asked quietly. "Worse," she admitted. "I've been officially disowned. Assets frozen, medical privileges permanently revoked." His expression darkened with concern. "Chantel, I never wanted—" "This isn't your fault," she interrupted. "This confrontation was inevitable from the moment I realized my father's entire life has been built around destroying his biological father's legacy." "How did he react to the birth certificate?" "Exactly as expected. Denial, then rage, then ultimatums." She leaned her head against the seat. "He accused me of choosing you over family loyalty." Finn's hand found hers, warm and steadying. "Did you?" "I chose truth," she corrected, "something neither of our families has particularly valued." Her phone lit up with messages, colleagues expressing shock at her sudden suspension, friends questioning tabloid headlines, patients' families concerned about interrupted treatments. Her professional reputation was being systematically dismantled through her father's influence. "They'll destroy everything I've worked for," she realized aloud. "My research, my surgical protocols, it's all technically owned by a hospital foundation controlled by Everett Media." Instead of platitudes, Finn offered solutions. "Allen Innovations has a medical research division. Your protocols could be implemented through our foundation instead. You'd risk further corporate conflict to salvage my research." His smile held the same steadiness she'd come to rely on during their island survival. "Some things matter more than stock prices, Doctor. Everett." Her phone rang with Victoria's distinctive tone. After a brief conversation with her mother, Chantel disconnected with renewed determination. "I understand why you kept the secret, Mom, but I can't continue living inside it. Their car arrived at New York Children's Hospital, where they were greeted by Dr. Patel, the hospital's chief of neurosurgery. Dr. Everett, perfect timing. I've reviewed your neural regeneration protocol. Our board approved emergency privileges for you this morning. Chantel's confusion must have shown clearly on her face. As Finn explained, I may have made some calls while you were confronting your family. For the first time since entering the Everett boardroom, tears threatened her composure. While her family had systematically dismantled her professional life, Finn had quietly rebuilt a foundation for it, one based on her merit rather than her last name. The children who need your procedure don't care about corporate rivalries, Dr. Patel added pragmatically. Our operating rooms are at your disposal. Later, as they left the hospital with her surgical schedule secured, Chantel turned to Finn. Thank you doesn't seem adequate. You stood against your entire family today for the sake of truth, he replied. I merely made some phone calls. You gave me back my purpose when they tried to take it away. She linked her fingers with his. That's no small thing. As their car rejoined Manhattan traffic, Chantel's phone displayed breaking news. Everett Media air disinherited over Allen romance. Your father works quickly, Finn observed, reading the headline. He controls half the news outlets in the country, Chantel replied with grim humor. Narrative management is the family business. And yet here we are, Finn mused, creating a narrative he can't control. What happens next? She asked, suddenly aware they were navigating uncharted waters. Finn's answer carried the same certainty he demonstrated on their island, when survival had seemed impossible yet necessary. We write our own story, Doctor. Everett. One day at a time. Chapter 7. Return to Paradise. 2 months after her confrontation with Raymond, Chantel had rebuilt her professional life from the ground up. Her surgical privileges at New York Children's Hospital had expanded into a research directorship, her innovative protocol successfully treating 17 pediatric patients who would have otherwise been considered inoperable. Dr. Everett, your 4 o'clock is waiting, her assistant announced as Chantel finished charting notes on her latest procedure. She entered her office to find Finn examining the anatomical brain model on her desk, his tailored suit a contrast to the clinical surroundings. The sight of him still sent a flutter through her chest. Playing with my toys, Mr. Allen? She teased, closing the door. His smile affected her exactly as it had that first night on their island. Learning the competition. Allen Innovations' Neural Interface Division is falling behind your research. Instead of continuing their playful banter, his expression turned serious. I need to show you something. Can you leave early? 30 minutes later, they boarded his private jet at Teterboro Airport. Chantel raised an eyebrow as the flight crew secured the cabin for departure. Going to tell me where we're headed? Papiete, Finn replied, his fingers interlacing with hers. I have a proposition that couldn't be made anywhere else. The flight passed in comfortable intimacy. They reviewed research collaborations, discussed advances in neural mapping, and slept wrapped in each other's arms. The connection they'd discovered on their island deepening with each shared day. As they lifted off over crystal lagoons in a chartered helicopter, Chantel felt a curious sense of homecoming. Below, familiar reefs and volcanic peaks emerged from morning mist. You're taking me back to Motu Tapu, she realized as their flight path became clear. The horseshoe bay where they'd washed ashore unmistakable even from altitude. The island looked both foreign and achingly familiar as they circled for landing. Where their makeshift camp had once stood, a small compound of sustainable buildings now nestled among palm trees, solar panels glinting in morning light. What is this place? Chantel asked as they disembarked. Potentially the future headquarters of the Allen Everett Foundation for Neural Research, Finn explained, guiding her toward the main structure. "If you approve." Inside, she found a fully equipped research laboratory, alongside living quarters that combined luxury with sustainability. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the lagoon where they had once fished for survival. "You built a research facility on our island." The magnitude of his gesture overwhelmed her. "I bought the island after we were rescued," he admitted. It felt wrong letting it become some billionaire's vacation home when it held such significance for us. "The Allen Everett Foundation," she questioned, noting the hyphenated name on architectural renderings. "A new legacy," he explained, his voice deepening with emotion. "One built on collaboration rather than competition. Your surgical protocols combined with my interface technology, helping children worldwide regardless of family name or financial status." As sunset painted the horizon in familiar gold, they walked the beach where they had once washed ashore as desperate strangers. Now they strolled as partners, their entwined fingers a testament to connection forged in adversity. At the precise spot where they had built their first fire, Finn stopped, turning to face her with uncharacteristic nervousness. "I brought you back here because this island stripped away everything external. Wealth, status, last names, leaving only what truly mattered," he began, taking both her hands in his. "Here, we weren't Everett and Allen. We were simply Chantel and Finn, two people discovering each other without prejudice or expectation." From his pocket, he withdrew a small box crafted from driftwood, identical to the material that had sheltered them during tropical storms. "This island gave me the greatest gift of my life," he continued, opening the box to reveal a ring featuring a perfect black pearl surrounded by smaller white pearls. "It gave me you, and I'm hoping you'll accept another gift that carries the same significance." Chantel stared at the ring, emotions overwhelming logical thought. The black pearl represented Tahiti, while the surrounding white pearls honored their journey from strangers to soulmates. "I'm not proposing a merger between corporate dynasties," Finn clarified, his smile reflecting the sunset. "I'm asking the brilliant, compassionate, stubborn woman I love to build something new with me, something neither Everett's nor Allen's could create alone." Words failed her completely. Instead, Chantel pulled him close, answering with a kiss that spoke volumes about shared pasts and future promises. When they finally separated, breathless and laughing, she whispered, "On one condition." "Name it." "We get married here, on this beach. No media, no corporate representatives. Just people who see us for who we are, not what dynasties we represent." His smile turned mischievous. "I might have anticipated that condition." He gestured toward the research compound where staff had begun arranging torches and flowers along the shoreline. "The jet is returning tomorrow with whoever you want to invite. The Tahitian minister is already on standby." Laughing at his presumption, Chantel slipped the ring onto her finger. "I don't remember you being this confident on the island." "I wasn't," he admitted, pulling her close. "But some risks are worth taking, Dr. Everett." That night, in the privacy of their new sanctuary, their physical connection mirrored their emotional one, passionate, tender, and built on absolute trust, formed when each had seen the other at their most vulnerable. Morning found them composing messages to those they wanted present, colleagues who had supported her after disinheritance, patients whose lives she had saved, and, after long consideration, her mother and brother. To Victoria, she wrote simply, "We're creating a new beginning from an old ending. Your presence would mean everything." The day passed in peaceful preparation. As evening approached, the helicopter returned with unexpected news. Victoria had boarded the jet in New York, bringing James but not Raymond. Local women helped Chantel dress in a simple white sheath adorned with fresh flowers and pearls, crowning her with a traditional hay, a Tahitian floral headpiece symbolizing new beginnings. When Victoria entered, her expression reflected complicated emotions: pride and regret, joy and sorrow. "You look radiant," she offered, embracing her daughter carefully. Victoria touched the pearl ring gently. "Your grandmother Elizabeth would approve. She always believed knowledge should heal, not divide." The simple acknowledgement of Elizabeth's true legacy brought unexpected tears to Chantel's eyes. "Did you bring the journals?" Victoria nodded, producing a weathered leather volume. Her private thoughts, not the sanitized version your father preserved. "I thought today was appropriate for truth." As sunset approached, Chantel stood at the edge of the tropical forest, watching torches illuminate the beach where Finn waited beside a Tahitian minister. Victoria took her arm, providing traditional escort in Raymond's absence. "He still loves you," she whispered. "He just doesn't know how to reconcile his entire life's narrative being upended." "Some truths are worth the disruption they cause," Chantel replied, a lesson their island had taught her well. As they began their procession across warm sand, Chantel's focus narrowed to Finn, the man who had saved her life, challenged her perceptions, and now waited to build a shared future founded on truth rather than convenience. Their vows, exchanged as waves gently lapped the shore, acknowledged both the extraordinary circumstances of their meeting and the deliberate choice to forge connection despite generations of division. "On this island, we found each other stripped of everything but our essential selves," Chantel promised. "I choose that essential self, your brilliance, your integrity, your compassion, over any name or legacy." "In losing everything, I found what truly matters," Finn responded, sliding a simple band alongside her pearl engagement ring. "Not what we inherit, but what we build. Not what divides us, but what we create together." The minister pronounced them married as the last rays of sunlight gilded the lagoon in gold. Their kiss, witnessed by the island that had first fostered their connection, sealed more than a legal union. It represented healing of wounds that had festered across decades and generations. During the celebration that followed, James approached, offering formal congratulations that gradually warmed into genuine conversation. As Everett Media's newly appointed CEO, he spoke cautiously of potential collaboration opportunities between their companies. Corporate speak for "father might be reconsidering his position," Chantel translated with gentle humor. As celebrations continued, Finn drew Chantel away to a secluded cove accessible only by a hidden path. There, nestled among palms, stood a perfect replica of their original survival shelter, the simple structure they had built together during those first desperate days, now transformed with soft bedding and hurricane lamps. "Our first home," Finn explained, "redesigned for our first night as husband and wife." The thoughtful gesture, honoring where they began while celebrating how far they'd come, embodied everything their relationship represented. In this place where they had once fought against nature's fury, they now embraced nature's beauty, transformed from survivors to creators. Later, as moonlight silvered their private cove, they lay entwined on soft bedding, the sound of waves creating perfect accompaniment to whispered conversations about future plans. "Do you ever wonder if the storm was actually fate's design?" Chantel asked, her head resting on his chest, listening to the steady heartbeat that had become her most familiar comfort. "I believe some souls are destined to find each other," Finn replied, his fingers tracing patterns along her spine. "Even if the universe has to sweep everything else away to make it happen." As dawn approached, they stood together at the water's edge, their bare feet leaving paired footprints in wet sand, temporary marks that would vanish with the tide, yet symbolic of the lasting impression they had made on each other's lives. The Allen Everett Foundation had been born on the very shores where they had once fought for survival, testament to the extraordinary power of connection, forged in adversity and strengthened through choice. Chapter 8: Blood and Water. 1 month into their marriage, Chantel and Finn divided their time between New York and their island research facility. The Alan Everett Foundation had gained international attention, with medical journals praising their innovative approach to pediatric neurological treatment. Then came the call that changed everything. Dr. Everett? The hospital administrator's voice was tense. Your father has suffered a massive stroke. He's been admitted to Manhattan General. Chantel rushed to the hospital, finding her mother and James in the waiting room, faces drawn with worry. Despite months of estrangement, seeing Raymond unconscious and vulnerable shattered her lingering resentment. The damage is extensive, the attending neurologist explained. Standard treatment protocols offer limited hope for meaningful recovery. What about your neural regeneration technique? James asked desperately. Chantel examined the scans with professional detachment that barely masked her emotional turmoil. It's experimental, designed for pediatric patients. The risks? Take them, Victoria interrupted. He would want you to try. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Raymond's only chance lay with the very research he had attempted to destroy during their estrangement. Chantel called Finn immediately. I need the prototype interface. Father's life depends on it. Without hesitation, Finn mobilized Allen Innovations' resources, flying their experimental neural interface from Tahiti to New York in record time. The technology represented the culmination of 3 generations of research, work that had begun with Thomas Allen and Elizabeth Everett decades earlier. The surgery lasted 14 hours, combining Chantel's regenerative techniques with Finn's interface technology in a procedure never before attempted on an adult patient. When she finally emerged from the operating room, exhaustion had etched deep lines around her eyes. We've done everything possible, she told her waiting family. Now we wait. During Raymond's critical first days post-surgery, Finn remained constantly at Chantel's side, despite the complicated history between him and the Everett patriarch. His unwavering support drew curious glances from hospital staff who knew the tabloid version of their family's feud. On the 3rd night, as they maintained vigil in Raymond's private room, Victoria joined them with a small leather case. I thought it was time you both saw these, she said, removing a stack of aged photographs. The images revealed a younger Elizabeth Everett alongside Thomas Allen, their expressions reflecting unmistakable affection. The final photograph showed them standing before the original Allen neural interface prototype, their shared achievement captured in a moment of professional triumph. They were going to announce their relationship publicly, Victoria explained, along with their joint research. Then Elizabeth discovered she was pregnant. And Harold Everett intervened, Finn surmised. Victoria nodded sadly. He threatened to destroy both their reputations if Thomas didn't disappear. Elizabeth chose to protect her child and their research legacy. By perpetuating the theft narrative, Chantel concluded, the pieces finally fitting together. She believed Raymond would eventually learn the truth and reconcile with Thomas. But Harold's bitterness poisoned Raymond's perspective before she could correct it. The monitors tracking Raymond's neural activity suddenly registered a change. His fingers twitched, then his eyelids flickered. Chantel leapt up, medically trained eyes assessing the unexpected response. Slowly, Raymond opened his eyes, gaze unfocused until it settled on Chantel. His throat worked painfully before producing a hoarse whisper. Alexandra. Tears filled her eyes as she grasped his hand. I'm here, Father. His gaze shifted to Finn, standing supportively behind her. Recognition dawned, followed by something unexpected, not hatred, but profound weariness. Alan, he acknowledged weakly. Mr. Everett, Finn replied with careful respect. Raymond's eyes closed briefly, gathering strength. When they opened again, they held uncharacteristic vulnerability. You have his eyes, he whispered. Thomas's eyes. Never saw it before. The simple observation, Acknowledging his biological father without rancor represented a seismic shift in Raymond's perspective. Victoria moved closer, placing the photographs where he could see them. "It's time to end this, Raymond," she said gently. "Look at them. They created something remarkable together, just as Chantel and Finn are doing now." Over the following days, Raymond's recovery defied medical expectations. The neural regeneration technique, combined with Finn's interface, gradually restored functions that standard medicine had deemed permanently damaged. During his rehabilitation, the 3 generations of family history were cautiously, painfully discussed. Old wounds began healing alongside physical ones, as truth gradually replaced carefully constructed fiction. On the day Raymond was discharged, he asked to speak with Chantel and Finn privately. "My entire life was built around destroying Thomas Allen's legacy," he admitted with difficult honesty. "I never imagined his son would save mine. Technically, I'm his grandson by adoption," Finn corrected gently, "just as you're his son by birth." Raymond nodded slowly, still processing this reality. "The foundation you've created, the Allen Everett Foundation, it continues their work." "It does," Chantel confirmed. "Technologies they pioneered together, separated by circumstance, now reunited through us." Raymond studied them both, seeing perhaps for the first time not corporate rivals, but family connected by both blood and choice. "I'd like to see it," he said finally. "This island research facility. When I'm stronger." The invitation represented more than scientific curiosity. It signaled willingness to acknowledge truth rather than perpetuate comfortable lies. As they helped Raymond to the waiting car, Chantel and Finn exchanged glances that contained equal parts hope and caution. Generations of hatred couldn't be erased overnight, but watching her father struggle to rewrite his personal narrative reminded Chantel of something essential: that healing, like love, required courage to begin and patience to complete. And on their island of second chances, perhaps even the deepest wounds might finally find healing. Chapter 9: Empires at War. As Raymond recovered, the corporate world continued its relentless machinations. James arrived at Chantel's office one morning, his expression grave. "The Everett Media Board is making a move against Allen Innovations," he announced without preamble. "They're proceeding with the hostile takeover despite father's change of heart." "How is that possible? Raymond is still CEO." "Technically, he's on medical leave. The board secured enough proxy votes to proceed without him." Chantel immediately called Finn, who confirmed the situation from Auckland. "Our shareholders received the official offer this morning," he explained. "The board is meeting to formulate a response." "This isn't just business," Chantel realized. "This is the old guard ensuring the feud continues regardless of our reconciliation." Within hours, both companies were engulfed in corporate warfare. Everett Media leaked damaging stories questioning Allen Innovations' financial stability. Allen's board countered by highlighting Everett's outdated technology platforms. Caught between these warring empires stood the Allen Everett Foundation, their shared vision for healing that now appeared threatened by corporate greed disguised as fiduciary responsibility. Chantel found Raymond in his home office, reviewing the takeover documents with obvious disapproval. "Did you know about this?" she demanded. "Not until this morning," he admitted. "The board kept me deliberately uninformed during recovery." "You need to stop them. This vendetta has gone on long enough." Raymond's expression hardened with familiar determination. "Prepare for a press conference tomorrow morning." The announcement took both corporate boards by surprise. Raymond Everett, still showing signs of his recent illness, stood before assembled media with Chantel and Finn flanking him supportively. "For 40 years, I believed a lie about my origins," he began, his voice steady despite his physical frailty. That lie fueled a corporate feud that has benefited neither family nor the public we serve. Flashbulbs exploded as he continued, "Today I am announcing my retirement as CEO of Everett Media, effective immediately. Furthermore, I am donating my controlling interest to the Allen Everett Foundation for Neural Research." The assembled reporters erupted as Raymond continued his prepared statement. "The foundation, led by my daughter, Dr. Alexandra Chantel Everett, and her husband, Finn Allen, will hold these shares in trust, ensuring both companies focus on collaborative innovation rather than destructive competition." The corporate earthquake triggered by Raymond's announcement sent shockwaves through Wall Street. Both companies' stocks fluctuated wildly as analysts scrambled to assess the implications of this unprecedented restructuring. "You've effectively created the merger they feared," James observed later in Raymond's library, "but on your terms rather than theirs." "I've corrected a historical injustice," Raymond replied. "Thomas and Elizabeth's work was meant to heal, not divide. This ensures their legacy continues as they intended." For Chantel and Finn, the corporate maneuvering represented both victory and new challenge, as foundation directors now controlling significant portions of both family companies. They faced intense scrutiny from board members accustomed to prioritizing profit over purpose. "They'll fight us at every turn," Finn acknowledged as they reviewed foundation priorities, especially the research funding allocations. "Let them," Chantel replied with the same determination that had kept them alive on their island. "Some battles are worth fighting, no matter the opposition." The corporate resistance materialized quickly. Senior executives questioned expenditures, challenged research directions, and leaked unflattering assessments to business publications. The Foundation's ambitious neural treatment center faced regulatory delays engineered by those who preferred the status quo. During this corporate siege, an unexpected ally emerged. Elaine Allen, Finn's adoptive mother and former Allen Innovations chairwoman, arrived unannounced at the Foundation's New York office. "You've made powerful enemies," she informed them bluntly, "but also some impressed observers." She placed a leather portfolio on their desk, opening it to reveal documents bearing the Allen family crest. "Thomas's original research notes, preserved by my late husband. I believe they belong with the Foundation now." The gesture represented more than historical artifacts. It signaled the older generation's gradual acceptance of the new order Chantel and Finn were establishing. "The boards will continue fighting," Elaine warned. "Old hatreds don't dissolve overnight, even when their foundation is exposed as fiction." "We're prepared for the battle," Finn assured her. Elaine studied her adopted son with unexpected emotion. "Thomas would be proud of what you're building together. It's what he and Elizabeth envisioned before circumstances tore them apart." As corporate pressure intensified, Chantel and Finn retreated periodically to their island research facility, drawing strength from the place where their connection had first formed. There, surrounded by scientists dedicated to healing rather than profit margins, they refined the vision that had united them despite generations of division. "Perhaps we should make this our permanent headquarters," Chantel suggested one evening as they watched sunset paint their lagoon in brilliant orange. "Let the corporate world exhaust itself with infighting while we focus on what truly matters." "Running away?" Finn asked with gentle challenge. "Strategic relocation," she corrected with a smile. "This island has always shown us truth when the outside world offered only comfortable lies." The solution emerged unexpectedly from Raymond, who had been quietly observing the corporate conflict from recovery. During a Foundation board meeting, he proposed restructuring both companies under a holding entity controlled by the Foundation. "Let the profits serve the purpose, not the reverse," he suggested, echoing Thomas and Elizabeth's original vision. Neural interfaces designed for healing rather than shareholder value. The proposal ignited fierce corporate resistance, culminating in a shareholder meeting where generations of business philosophy clashed openly. Old guard executives argued fiduciary responsibility, while Chantel and Finn presented a vision of corporate purpose beyond mere profit. When votes were finally tallied, the Foundation's restructuring proposal passed by the narrowest margin, a victory for healing over hatred, for shared vision over divided competition. That night, celebrating on the rooftop garden of their Manhattan apartment, Chantel and Finn recognized how far they had come from desperate castaways fighting for survival. "We've transformed more than companies," Finn observed, raising his glass to the illuminated skyline. "We've rewritten a family narrative that seemed unchangeable." "From forbidden love to corporate revolution," Chantel agreed. "Not bad for two people who met at a yacht party." Their laughter, shared beneath Manhattan stars so different from the Tahitian constellations that had witnessed their beginning, contained the hard-won wisdom of those who had lost everything only to gain what truly mattered. Chapter 10: Legacies Unearthed. 6 months after the corporate restructuring, the Allen Everett Foundation had established treatment centers in New York, Auckland, and their Tahitian island headquarters. Their neural regeneration therapy had successfully treated over 200 children previously considered untreatable. On a rainy Tuesday morning, Chantel's assistant interrupted her with unusual urgency. "Dr. Everett, they found something at the old Everett Media Storage Facility. Your mother says it's important." The aging warehouse in Queens housed decades of company archives. Victoria waited inside alongside an archivist holding a metal lockbox stamped with Elizabeth Everett's initials. "It was hidden behind a false wall," Victoria explained, "discovered during renovation." The lockbox contained Elizabeth's complete research journals, correspondence with Thomas Allen, and something unexpected: a sealed letter addressed to "My son, Raymond, when you're ready for truth." Chantel delivered the letter personally to her father, who had relocated to a Manhattan penthouse during his recovery. His hands trembled slightly as he broke the seal on his mother's 40-year-old message. "She knew," Raymond said after reading. "She knew Harold wasn't my biological father, but hoped we might develop a relationship anyway." Elizabeth's letter detailed her love affair with Thomas, their research collaboration, and Harold's ultimatum when he discovered her pregnancy. Thomas had wanted to claim Raymond publicly, but Elizabeth had chosen protection over truth, fearing Harold's media influence would destroy all their futures. Most revealing was Elizabeth's final plea: find Thomas. He created something remarkable to honor our work together. It should belong to both our families, united rather than divided. This cryptic message sent Chantel and Finn to Allen Innovations' historical archives. In a long-abandoned laboratory outside Auckland, they discovered the original neural interface prototype, the device Thomas and Elizabeth had designed together before circumstances tore them apart. "This is decades ahead of its time," Finn marveled, examining the elegant design that incorporated both creators' distinctive approaches. More significant was Thomas Allen's handwritten dedication etched into the base: "For Elizabeth and our son. May what we created together heal what circumstances divided." They brought the prototype to Raymond, who studied it with complex emotions. "All those years fighting against Allen Innovations," he reflected quietly. "I was actually fighting against my own father's legacy, a legacy created partly for me." "History doesn't need to dictate the future," Chantel reminded him gently. The unearthed prototype became the cornerstone of the Foundation's expanded research initiative. When Finn arranged its display in the Foundation's museum section, he placed Elizabeth and Thomas's photographs alongside it, acknowledging both creators whose vision had transcended the circumstances that separated them. As the Foundation's influence expanded, they received an unexpected communication from Elaine Allen, who had maintained careful distance since delivering Thomas's research notes. "There's something else you should see," she wrote. "Something Thomas created before his death. I believe it belongs with Elizabeth's letter." In the Allen family's Auckland estate, Elaine presented them with a sealed envelope bearing Thomas's distinctive handwriting. "For my grandson, Finn, when he finds his way to Elizabeth's granddaughter." Inside, they discovered legal documents transferring ownership of a private island in the Tahitian archipelago, Motu Tapu, the very island where they had washed ashore. "He bought it the year before he died," Elaine explained, "left instructions that it should pass to his descendants only when the Everett and Allen families were reconciled." How could he possibly have known? Chantel wondered, astonished by this revelation. "Thomas always believed truth would eventually surface," Elaine replied. "He said Elizabeth's granddaughter would have her insight, while his grandson would have his stubbornness. Together, they might heal what he and Elizabeth couldn't." The storm, Finn realized suddenly. Of all the places in the Pacific we could have washed ashore. "We landed on the island Thomas had designated for our eventual meeting," Chantel completed his thought. "An island whose name literally means forbidden sanctuary." The revelation transformed their understanding of their journey. Not random disaster, but destined reunion, orchestrated across generations by those who had loved despite circumstances, but been separated by their era's limitations. When they shared these discoveries with Raymond during his first visit to the island facility, he studied the lagoon where Chantel and Finn had first struggled for survival with new perspective. "Thomas and Elizabeth created neural interfaces to connect minds," he observed thoughtfully. "Perhaps they understood more about connection than science has yet explained." On the anniversary of their island rescue, Chantel and Finn returned to the exact beach where they had washed ashore as desperate strangers. There, surrounded by the Foundation team, they buried a time capsule containing both families' research journals alongside their own island survival diary. "For future generations," Chantel explained during the small ceremony. "So they remember that sometimes losing everything is the only way to find what truly matters." Raymond, attending despite his still limited mobility, added his mother's letter to the collection. And so they understand that truth, however difficult or long delayed, ultimately serves healing better than comfortable fiction. As tropical sunset painted their sanctuary in familiar gold, 3 generations watched the gentle waves that had once seemed so threatening. The same ocean that had nearly claimed their lives had ultimately delivered them to their truest destiny, healing not just neural pathways, but family legacies long fractured by misunderstanding. "Full circle," Finn observed quietly, his arm around Chantel's shoulders as they faced the horizon together. "No," she corrected gently, "spiraling upward. Same location, but higher perspective." The distinction captured everything their journey represented, not merely returning to origins, but elevating understanding, not simply reconciling past wrongs, but creating future possibilities, not only surviving disaster, but transforming it into purpose. Chapter 11. Trial by Fire. 1 year into their Foundation's expansion, Chantel and Finn faced their greatest challenge. A devastating fire erupted at their Tahitian research facility during a tropical storm that delayed emergency response. The blaze, sparked by lightning striking their power system, spread rapidly through the laboratory wing. Finn was in the building when the alarm sounded, overseeing a new interface calibration. He immediately led evacuation procedures, ensuring all patients and staff reached safety before flames engulfed the central structure. Chantel, awakened by emergency alerts in their private quarters, rushed to the facility only to learn Finn had returned inside for the research servers containing irreplaceable patient data and treatment protocols. "He went back 5 minutes ago," the security chief reported, restraining her from following. The eastern section is completely compromised. Minutes stretched into unbearable eternity as smoke billowed against rain-dark skies. First responders finally arrived by boat, battling both storm and flames while Chantel maintained desperate hope. When a figure emerged from the smoke-filled entrance, she broke free from restraining hands, running toward Finn as he collapsed on rain-soaked ground. His burns required immediate treatment, but he'd succeeded. The fireproof case containing their research remained clutched in his hands. "I couldn't let them lose hope," he explained in the makeshift medical tent, wincing as Chantel herself treated his burns. "Those protocols are their only chance." The following days revealed the fire's devastating scope. Half their facility lay in ruins, specialized equipment destroyed, rehabilitation spaces rendered unusable. Though no lives were lost, the Foundation's future seemed suddenly precarious. James arrived from New York, representing both family concerns and corporate interests. "The boards are questioning the rebuild investment," he reported with uncomfortable directness. "Some argue for consolidating operations at the Manhattan facility instead." "This isn't just a building," Chantel countered fiercely. "This island represents everything we fought for, neutral ground where healing transcends corporate boundaries." As Finn recovered, news of the disaster spread through medical communities worldwide. Then something unexpected happened. Offers of assistance poured in from doctors, researchers, and institutions they'd collaborated with. Former patients and their families launched fundraising initiatives. Even competitors offered equipment loans until replacements could be secured. Most surprising was Raymond's response. Against medical advice, he flew to Tahiti, arriving with architectural plans already drafted. "The rebuild begins immediately," he announced without preamble. "I've liquidated my personal art collection to ensure funding regardless of board approval." The gesture represented more than financial support. It signaled Raymond's complete evolution from antagonist to ally, from divided loyalty to unified purpose. "Elizabeth and Thomas would want their legacy to continue here," he explained simply when Chantel expressed gratitude. Together, they surveyed the damaged facility, salvaging what remained while envisioning something stronger rising from the ashes. The crisis had sparked unexpected unity among previously cautious allies, transforming corporate stakeholders into true believers. 6 weeks into reconstruction, legal complications arose. Insurance investigators questioned the fire's origin, suggesting potential negligence rather than natural causes. Internal documentation revealed safety protocols had been modified shortly before the disaster. Someone deliberately compromised the lightning protection system, Finn realized, reviewing maintenance logs. This wasn't an accident. The revelation triggered immediate security investigations and legal proceedings. Evidence pointed toward industrial espionage, competitors attempting to access proprietary protocols through created chaos. When authorities identified the suspected saboteur, a recently hired maintenance worker with falsified credentials, the case expanded into something more sinister. The man had connections to a pharmaceutical conglomerate whose neural medication patents faced obsolescence if the Alan Everett regeneration therapy became standard treatment. His subsequent trial exposed the intersection of corporate greed and medical ethics. Chantel and Finn found themselves providing testimony that extended beyond specific sabotage to address the Foundation's broader impact on entrenched healthcare profit models. "Our approach threatens those who benefit from treatment rather than curing," Chantel explained to assembled media during a courthouse recess. "Permanent neural regeneration eliminates lifetime medication dependencies." The legal battle transformed into a philosophical referendum on healthcare priorities: profit versus healing, maintenance versus cure, corporate interests versus patient outcomes. Throughout proceedings, their island facility continued rising from ashes, redesigned with enhanced safety features and expanded treatment capacity. What opponents had intended as devastating setback had instead catalyzed accelerated growth. When the verdict finally arrived, guilty on all counts for both the saboteur and corporate executives who had orchestrated the plan, it represented vindication not merely of their security protocols, but of their entire healing philosophy. Some fires destroy, Finn observed as they reviewed the nearly completed reconstruction. Others refine and strengthen. The metaphor applied equally to their facility and their relationship, both tested by extreme circumstances, both emerging more resilient for having endured the trial by fire. As patients returned to the rebuilt island sanctuary, Chantel noticed something profound. Raymond, working alongside Foundation staff, his recovery from stroke now complemented by newfound purpose, sharing Elizabeth and Thomas's true legacy with children benefiting from their combined brilliance. "I spent decades destroying what they created," he admitted during a quiet moment, watching sunrise from the new observation deck. "Now I finally understand what they were building." The Foundation emerged from crisis stronger than before, its mission clarified through adversity. The attempted destruction had paradoxically secured its future, transforming cautious supporters into committed advocates. As Chantel and Finn surveyed their restored sanctuary, scars from both fire and storm remained visible, constant reminders that creation often requires surviving destruction first. "We should keep some of these burned sections exposed," Finn suggested, indicating charred support beams now incorporated into the new design. Reminders that damage doesn't diminish strength. The suggestion perfectly captured their journey, from shipwreck to sanctuary, from corporate warfare to healing collaboration, from deliberate destruction to purposeful rebuilding. Like the island itself, they had weathered storms, both natural and manufactured, emerging not merely intact but somehow more authentic for having endured. Chapter 12. Swept away by love. 5 years after washing ashore as desperate strangers, Chantel and Finn stood on their island's highest point, watching a procession of boats approach their expanded facility. The Foundation's 5th anniversary celebration had drawn supporters from across the globe: medical pioneers, corporate partners, grateful families, and the ever-growing team that had transformed their vision into worldwide reality. "Hard to believe this all started with a shipwreck," Finn observed, his arm around Chantel's shoulders. She leaned into his embrace, pregnancy making her more appreciative of support. Their first child, conceived after years of prioritizing Foundation establishment, would arrive within weeks, adding another dimension to their already remarkable journey. "Not just any shipwreck," she corrected, "a destined one if we believe Thomas's letter." The celebration embodied everything they'd built together, not merely a medical foundation, but a new paradigm where corporate resources served humanitarian purpose rather than shareholder value alone. Their neural regeneration protocols had expanded beyond pediatric applications to treat stroke victims, trauma survivors, and neurodegenerative conditions worldwide. Raymond arrived early, his mobility almost completely restored through their therapies. He brought an unexpected guest, an elderly man whose features struck Chantel immediately. "Alexandra," Raymond said formally, using her full name to signify the moment's importance. "This is Dr. Harold Everett Jr., my half-brother." The revelation stunned her. Another branch of family history, previously unacknowledged, now stood before her, living proof that Elizabeth's story extended beyond what they had discovered. "Thomas and Elizabeth had another child," Harold explained as they walked the facility grounds. "Born after we lost her. I was raised by Thomas and his wife in Switzerland, knowing only that my mother had died tragically." This missing piece of family history completed their understanding. While Raymond had grown up as Harold Everett Ser's son, Believing Thomas Allen his enemy, Harold Jr. had been raised as Thomas's son, unaware of his connection to the Everett dynasty. "He found me after reading about the foundation," Raymond explained. "Recognized Elizabeth's eyes in my photographs." The brothers, united by blood but separated by circumstances until both were elderly men, represented the final healing of a family fractured decades earlier. Their reunion, facilitated by the very foundation built from that fracture's reconciliation, embodied completion of a cycle begun before Chantal and Finn were born. As celebration formalities commenced, guests assembled on the beach where Chantal and Finn had first struggled for survival. There, surrounded by those who had supported their journey from castaways to visionaries, they unveiled the Foundation's most ambitious initiative yet: worldwide access to neural regeneration therapy, regardless of patients' financial resources. "From this island of second chances," Chantal addressed the gathered supporters, "we're building bridges to those who have been told healing is impossible, not because it's profitable, but because it's right." The announcement represented everything they had fought for: transformation of personal connection into global healing, elevation of shared purpose over inherited division, triumph of collaboration over competition. As evening approached, celebration transitioned to commemoration. In a private ceremony attended only by family and closest associates, they gathered at the precise spot where they had washed ashore 5 years earlier. There, they dedicated a simple monument, not to their own journey, but to Thomas and Elizabeth, whose brilliant collaboration and star-crossed love had ultimately found fulfillment through their grandchildren's union. They created neural interfaces decades before technology could fully manifest their vision, Finn explained, unveiling the monument displaying both Elizabeth and Thomas's research equations. But their greatest legacy wasn't technological. It was the understanding that true connection transcends circumstance. Raymond and Harold stood together before their parents' memorial, elderly men finding brotherhood after lifetimes spent either in ignorance or active hostility toward their shared heritage. "My entire life was defined by hating a man who was actually my father," Raymond reflected with hard-won wisdom. "While somewhere in Switzerland, my brother grew up never knowing his mother's family existed. Now we stand here together," Harold added, "because two people forced circumstances to bend toward truth rather than convenience." As twilight painted their sanctuary in familiar gold, guests dispersed to various celebration venues across the expanded compound. Chantal and Finn remained on their beach, drawn to the shoreline where everything had begun. "5 years ago, we fought the current just to survive another day," Chantal mused, waves lapping gently against her bare feet. "Now we're changing medical paradigms and reuniting families separated for decades." "Not bad for two stubborn people who spent their first week together arguing over shelter design," Finn replied with characteristic humor. Their laughter, shared beneath the emerging stars, contained the easy intimacy of those who had seen each other at both their most vulnerable and most triumphant. From desperate survival to global transformation, their connection had remained the constant foundation upon which everything else was built. As they walked the moonlit shore where fate had quite literally swept them together, Chantal felt their child move within her, the next generation of a family legacy transformed from division to unity, from rivalry to collaboration. Thomas wrote that his grandson would find Elizabeth's granddaughter, she reminded Finn. "What do you think he'd say about their great-grandchild?" "That some connections are written into the universe," Finn replied thoughtfully. "That what belongs together finds its way despite all obstacles." The Foundation facility glowed softly behind them, a beacon of healing where once only wilderness had existed. Within its walls, children who had been given no hope now played normally. Their neural pathways regenerated through technologies that traced their origins to research, begun decades earlier by lovers separated by circumstance, but united in brilliant purpose. As midnight approached, celebration fireworks illuminated the lagoon in spectacular color. Chantel and Finn watched from their private beach, the same stretch of sand where they had once collapsed, as desperate strangers now transformed into the heart of their shared purpose. "Worth getting shipwrecked for?" Finn asked softly, his hand resting on their growing child. "Worth everything," Chantel affirmed, leaning into his embrace. The storm that seemed like ending was actually beginning. As fireworks painted the night sky above their island sanctuary, their joined silhouettes represented everything their journey embodied.